we have Rudy Atallah. He is the chief operating officer of the Nazarene Fund. He's a guy, he's a native of Beirut, Lebanon, fluent in Arabic and French. He has had over 20 years in the United States Air Force, special operations to intelligence and counterterrorism. He has consulted presidents, and we are thrilled that he has been our COO, and he's the guy who is sending these rescue missions and putting them together and rescuing these people. Rudy, welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you, Glenn. Thank you so much.
You bet. I don't want to get into the politics of this because I know it's split and we may even disagree on the politics of it. I just want to talk about the human cost and what is going to happen and what our responsibility, I believe, for the people who choose to help be a good Samaritan and help the people, what we can do. First, let's start with something I received last night, these horrific pictures of these people that were in what looked like even the hallway of a hospital, trying to be cleaned up after a bombing. I was told both of them were dead. It's a mother and a father and their children. The Nazarene Fund had already saved them once from ISIS and then moved them back into their houses. And I was told they were killed. You have a different story this morning?
Yes, sir. Actually, they survived. They were critically wounded with the bombings. The unfortunate thing is when Turkey began its bombing, it's very targeted against it's focused on the Kurds. But as we know, Christian families live in Kurdish areas. Many of them come from centuries, of family lineage in the area, and this family, unfortunately, was critically wounded. We're getting the ground invasion just began in a four-pronged attack into northern Syria, and the displacement as of this morning, we're hearing that over 100,000 people have already been displaced. And this number is going to continue to increase. We're slowly getting feed from some of our members on the ground. It's been very, very difficult, as you can tell from the bombings and the shellings, to get this information. But so far, a lot more people have been wounded. We just don't have a very good tally on the numbers right now.
When we have the video, we are just receiving new video. If we have the video go ahead and roll this. This is a town that somebody appears to be standing on their roof, and they're showing that it's just everything around their town is on fire, been bombed. They were safe. Can you tell me a little bit about this video, Rudy? Did you get it?
Yes. Yeah, Glenn, I just saw the video. This is coming from the town of Tel Abyad. That's in the north-central region of Syria. Of northern Syria, and the person that videotaped this is videotaping the different sections where the Turks are bombing. The Kurdish forces are not going to take this laying down. They're going to actually fight, and the reason why the fighting is going to actually happen is because back in January 2018, the Turks went into the town of Afrin in Syria and cleansed over 200,000 Kurds. This was in January 2018. So Kurdish forces saw this and are not going to, this time, sit back and not be prepared. They are going to fight to the death.
So these are not people. I wish we wouldn't have been in bed with these particular Kurds. These are not the Iraqi Kurds who are very pro-democracy and freedom and love America. These guys are really they're Marxist, communist kind of, they're authoritarian. And I don't like being in bed with them, but still they fought against ISIS. They actually were guarding a lot of the ISIS members, which we have taken apparently the worst of those ISIS people and got them out so they're not, released back into the public. But that's one of the things the Kurds and the Christians and the Yazidis are afraid of is those gates are going to be opened from those prison camps, and they're all going to just disappear.
Yes, that's correct. So what's going to happen is, as the Kurdish forces will be pressured, big camps like Al Hol camp, which houses right now over 70,000 prisoners, mainly the women and children of ISIS fighters. Many of them very radicalized and have sworn to fight. Camps like Ain Isa, Roj, all of these camps now will be under major duress because the Kurds will not be able to maintain guard over them. And the likelihood, and actually Baghdadi last month, the leader of ISIS, made a plea for his fighters to go in and rescue all these prisoners and get them released. We are now already hearing of ISIS attacks, where we're hearing of suicide attacks. Not unconfirmed yet, but I would not be surprised if they start to show. Back when ISIS was strong and they controlled a good chunk of real estate in northern Syria, many of the ISIS fighters were found with SIM cards from Turkey. Their rear base, their support would come from inside Turkey.
Well, we know we shut down 2 organ harvesting, quote, hospitals, and they were in Turkey. They were helping harvest organs with ISIS, Turkey is she may be an ally in NATO, but it's not an ally. It's not. They're on the wrong side, and if I'm not mistaken, I'd love you to correct this. They want to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. They want their land back, even from the northern Iraqi Kurds. They want to wipe out all Kurds and many of the Christians. They don't want them there anymore. And Turkey has done this in the past. Am I mistaken that we're looking at a genocide?
Yes, I would call it an ethnocide, but yes, you're correct. And the reason why is because the current president of Turkey is a card-carrying member of the Muslim Brotherhood. And when the Muslim Brotherhood was established in the early part of the 20th century, the view from Hassan al-Banna, the founder of the Muslim Brotherhood, is to return to what he calls pan-Arabism and pan-Islamism, basically a control. When Islam had conquered all the way up to the end of the Ottoman Empire in the beginning of the 20th century, it had large real estate in North Africa, across the Middle East, into a good chunk of Europe. And the idea behind the Muslim Brotherhood is basically to return to this pan-Arabism, and that's the foundation of it. The current president of Turkey holds these views in his mind. So what he's talking about right now is repatriating a lot of the refugees that are inside Turkey into northern Syria and creating that buffer zone. Unfortunately, most people don't understand that what he really wants to do is he wants to rid of northern Syria of any presence of Christians or Kurds and replace them with Arabs, Sunni Arabs that have the same mindset. Because only 17 to 20% of the refugees currently in Syria in Turkey are Syrian Arabs that are Sunnis. So he's not going to have a lot of refugees to work with, and he's going to have to replace the rest of these gaps with other people.
Okay, Rudy, you and I have talked to many of these Christians in the past. They've wanted to stay in the area because they don't want to abandon the birthplace, in many cases, of Christianity, where the apostles actually set up the actual church that they attend, and they don't want to abandon it. I have a feeling what's coming now, they're going to be willing to say, I gotta get out of here. We got to get our families out of here.
Yes.
This is, am I overstating it to say the problem may be worse than it was before and we have to get these people out?
Yes, it can become a lot worse, and we need to help every single one of them. And the reason why is they're going to get pushed into areas that are predominantly dominated by Iranian-backed militias, which are just as bad as ISIS.
Yeah,
and
there's
then
no place to
we
go.
can see a resurgence of ISIS. So they would be indiscriminately targeted because of their Christian faith. And sadly enough, as you mentioned, we would lose a lot of those Judeo-Christian areas that have been there for centuries, that hold basically the historical data of our heritage, of where we originally came from, like the tomb of Jonah, the tomb of Nahum, and all these very special old places that you read in the Old Testament. So, and these Christian families are we talked. I was in Iraq with my team not even a month and a half ago, and we were talking to 684 Syrian Christian families that were crying. They wanted to return back to Syria, but they could not because, the infrastructure was taken away from them. They can't even work. Now we're going to see even more Christians leave from inside Syria, and all of them are going to be pushed into neighboring countries like, Iraq, like Jordan, like Lebanon, which are already at the brink of maximum capability to help refugees. So they don't have the infrastructure to take in more refugees. The medical capabilities are not there. So what the Nazarene Fund is doing is we are finding these families. We are helping them stand on their 2 feet. We're working with the government of Australia, and we're looking for other governments to take them in. We're trying to give them a new lease on life. Many of them are professionals. A lot of these Christians are professionals, doctors, lawyers,
yeah.
engineers, very well-educated people. All they care about is raising their families properly, but they're not allowed to work in many of these countries. I had a woman, she looked at me and was crying. She said, I'm a professional teacher. I ran a school in Damascus, Syria. I can't return right now because it's so dangerous for me and my family. She said, I'm stuck scrubbing toilets from 8 o'clock in the morning to 5 o'clock at night. She said, I'm not ashamed to do it.
Nope.
I receive $5 a day for it. And she said, I'm not allowed to work as a teacher because I'm a Christian.
And what's amazing is most of these people will do those jobs, and they would do those for the rest of their life, but their lives are being cut short now, and this is a real problem.
Correct.
Please join us, NazareneFund.org. Help us. We need your support now, the NazareneFund.org. We've got to move these Christians out. They're going to get slaughtered. The NazareneFund.org. We are the leading people in the Middle East doing this, and we don't want to leave anyone behind. One other thing, you can also help us by joining us at the M1 Ball, which is happening a week from this Saturday here in Dallas. This is the thing that we do once a year that raises all of the money to keep the lights on, to keep people like Rudy employed, because all of the money that we raise through Nazarene Fund or anything else, emergency services, 100% goes to the cause. So we need to keep our employees employed, and we do that by raising money at the M1 Ball. And please buy a table, buy a chair, even buy it and don't come, but please donate to mercury1.org/M1Ball. And also you can help directly. 100% of the proceeds go to Save the Christians at NazareneFund.org.